And it seems like sci-fi missed their mark on that one because they had the ability, if they would have done it right, is to bring in all those different folks who are interested in cosplay. And that's the one thing I will tangent off for a minute here is that cosplay is probably one of the best, most creative outlets people can find, particularly if, they're into going to cons and stuff, because it challenges you to make, and I'm not talking about folks who just buy costumes on eBay. Now, if you go out of your way to make those costumes, folks who are doing cosplay, they're not just, doing straight out of the comics costumes. They're reinventing them. They're making their own. They're mixing genres. They're crossing over.
Yeah.
And I saw a steampunk Batman that was just decked out and dope. Like I was talking to the guy. He was telling me how he welded it all together from these sheets of brass he got. I mean, some of it's just insane, but.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, at least the way I think it should work is that, they want to promote you guys at all these cons, bring in that. And then, after you guys get established, with the show, they got to keep you in the family, give you gigs working on sci-fi scripted series, bring more people into the fray, because then, those cosplayers that follow you doing these props, they might start watching that scripted television as well. Because like you said earlier, your name's in the credits now. And people who are into building stuff, they follow people who build stuff.
They do. There's some cosplayers that I follow, some friends I made, over the years, from like Cosplay Melee and,
oh yeah,
the Heroes of Cosplay, Yaya Han. She is like one of the sweetest people I ever, if you watch the show, it looks otherwise, but she's like one of the sweetest people, in cosplay that I've met. And, I mean, you watch their builds and stuff, and you're blown away. That's the big thing that I think like the networks miss out on. Like you were saying, like I've got over here in the corner, I kind of keep them as souvenirs, all of the celebrity badges that I've gotten over all the Comic-Cons I've been to. And I have actually, in the last 6 years since the show's finale, I have been to, as a celebrity guest, close to 56 Comic-Cons.
wow.
And that's just me. I mean, I know the Face Off guys would like to get more, visuals. The damn cosplayers want us there. Here's the teetering point is, do we sell tickets? Well, I know I sell tickets because, I know how many autographs I sign, and I don't charge for my autograph, but, like I've got copies of my book. So if they want to buy copies of one of my books, then that's what I do when I'm there. But I do photo ops, I do, autographs, and I've stood at one Comic-Con for over 600 photographs. So I know people want to see, Henson Show people, cosplay, Heroes of Cosplay. They want to see Face Off guys. So I call a cluster of my friends from Face Off, and I'll be like, hey, I'm working on this out with this Comic-Con, to maybe do like a workshop thing. Would any of you guys be interested? You're not really going to get paid a ton, but it's a, way to kind of keep,
it's exposure.
Exactly. And so, I've got this group that I go to on a regular basis, usually the guys from, from the first season, like for instance, Marcel Banks from the first season of, Face Off. I call Marcel regularly, mainly just for problems. I'm just like, hey, I can't figure this out. What the hell are you doing that I'm doing wrong? And Marcel's down for it. I've got, a group of friends of mine from the Henson Show that they're genuinely interested. Usually it's going to be Lex, me, sometimes Melissa, and Yvonne. And, and we'll go to these Comic-Cons and Gigi and I keep talking about us as the artists ourselves, but like Kirk Thatcher is always down for things. Gigi's always down for things. And she was the host and Kirk was one of the judges, and you get us together and it's, well, if Kirk's there, it gets pretty raw. But we all have a good time. We all have fun. We had so much fun on this show. We want to share that with our fans, and I don't understand why it's never been grasped by the network that they have this gold mine that they're not doing anything with, I mean, we all just kind of promote ourselves in that particular, respect. And I think, and God only knows what's going to happen with Comic-Cons now. I mean, after, post COVID, I mean, God only knows, but there for that period that, they had countless, opportunities to just, I mean, some of the shows I've been to were over 100,000 people,
Oh yeah.
attended. I mean, some of them were like the worst. I mean, I don't know if you're a Comic-Con guy,
Oh, I go
but
to a lot of Comic Cons. We work
oh my
tables and
God.
sell comics. And then that was the one thing I was going to ask you, just because you go to Comic Cons. Everybody who sets up a table at a Comic Con that I talk to, I always ask him this one question: what is the weirdest request you have ever gotten while you were at Comic Con?
Oh, dude, I can't even, honestly, I can't even, because this is probably be broadcasted and a child would hear it. I can't even go into some of that stuff, but there's some guys. I'm actually drinking from their mug. Am I allowed to promote them at all,
Oh,
or
go for it.
whatever? So these are some friends of mine. I've actually been to 6 of these. This is Dallas All Con. I've got some friends slash fans slash blah, from that Dallas Comic Con that heard stories that we
Yeah.
have this. We put on this panel. It was actually started by Neil Kaplan, voice of Optimus Prime. He started this thing. It was a late night panel, and because this Comic Con is 24 hours, basically 4 days long, it
Oh,
never ends. So we
wow.
would do these midnight panels, and we called them the drunk panels. And essentially, you would try to get as many of the celebrity guests in this panel with you as you could, and then get them drunk. And no one was allowed to record or have their cameras on or whatever. All the cameras had to be off, and we would just browbeat the industry. Like some of the stories that were coming out of that panel, people are still talking about today 5 years ago. And so this was a regular thing for us. I missed the first Dallas All Con this year in 6 years because we had a baby, and so she was
Oh,
due the week before.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So she was due just the week before, so it was like there's no way in hell I'm going, but that panel still goes on. I mean, and if I'm there, it's the midnight panel. It's still all Neil Kaplan's dream panel or whatever that
Yeah,
he put
yeah, yeah.
together. And so whether he's there at that particular show or not, there's always like the little spill of the beer, for Neil. God only knows where he's at, but if he was here, and then we would get started. And that panel, we lose track of time, and it's not uncommon for that panel to be over 3 hours after it began. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just,
Well, I
and
mean,
you'll have,
especially if you're just drinking, shooting the shit. You know what I
and
mean?
that's it. I mean,
Talking it
you'll have
up.
people in the crowd asking questions like you were asking about, what's the worst thing that has ever been, you know, one thing I will tell you is as it's a different world if you're a celebrity guest. Like
Hmm.
you get to see the behind the scenes stuff, and that's kind of fun, but you also get preyed upon like you wouldn't believe. And I actually had, when I came up, I can't even remember what con it was. We had this guy posing. He was coming up, and he was like my security for the weekend, and he had the earpiece and everything,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's escorting me back and forth to my room, taking me to all my panels, and pretty much every time I turn around, this guy's there. I even had I had a code name that this guy would use when he whispered into his cuff. So I'm like, damn, this con isn't playing around. And you know and then we get to the end of the show, and the conover comes over and asks me how the con went. I'm like, oh my god, it was great. And did hundreds of autographs. I'm thrilled to death. And he's like, I apologize, we didn't realize that you needed that level of security. And I'm like, I don't understand. He's like, well, we have con security, but we didn't know you needed your own personal security. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm like, that guy's not with you. And he just sort of looked at me, and you could see blood run out of his face. I'll be right back. It was like, and then he was like escorted out. This guy had been posing as a damn, like, I don't know if he cosplay was, but you get
It's
preyed
just
upon.
cosplay and a bodyguard this whole time. Oh, that is hysterical. I mean,
Well,
was he at least a cool guy to hang out with? You're stuck with him all weekend.
he was very professional. He hardly ever mingled, you know. I mean, he was, but he'd be outside of my room. He knew what room I was in. I mean, it was like, what the hell's going on? Help me check in and stuff. I thought he was with the convention. Anyway, you know, that's some of
Oh,
the
that's
shit you got to
strange.
do.
That's
But,
strange. I
yeah.
did, so after the fact, did you ever get like a story of who he was? Like, was he just a fan, or was he like
I
actually?
never heard another word. Are you kidding? They are not going to bring it up. They're afraid of a lawsuit. I mean, or like, because I mean, this guy, I don't know what the hell. You could have been, you know, like, you know, you just never know. But
Yeah, yeah.
the fact that you, and we've been to cons where you know you have a great time, but the con is just a nightmare.